triangulation there. The other sign is when they tell you, okay, I'm just telling you, but don't mention it to them, okay? That's a sure sign that there's triangulation happening there. Another sign is when they are pressuring you to take a side. There's no need to take a side, but they want you to take their side. Triangulation is happening. Another thing is when there's information inconsistency. Everyone is giving a different version of the story, but it's the same story. Tomorrow you hear this, the next day you hear that. Triangulation is happening there. The other sign is the Dear Abby effect, where you become the office therapist. Every issue comes to your desk. Everyone is crying in your office. Everyone wants to talk to you about the next person. Remember, you are not the office therapist. And so that's a sure sign that you are being triangulated in an issue that you were not part of. And of course, it has a devastating impact on individuals, on teams, on organizations eventually. On individuals, reputations are damaged when there's triangulation. Gossip always destroys reputations, and there's always anxiety. People start dreading to go to the office because they know something is happening. There's always tension and everything like that. The other thing that happens when there's triangulation is that there's emotional exhaustion and divided loyalty. Imagine an office with cliques. They have team A and they have team B. Of course, the team will break down. Trust will break down. There will be a toxic culture in the office, and there's reduced collaboration. I mean, how do you work together with somebody you were just from talking about? In organizations, poor performance then comes in, leadership inefficiency, and conflicts that never end. Now, supervisors are always resolving conflicts because what was just an anthill has been turned into a mountain. Triangulation. So it will affect the organization as a whole because instead of strategizing, leaders are resolving conflict. Now, if you are the triangulated, what should you do? If you find yourself in a situation where you are person C, you must ensure that you redirect the communication. Be quick to say, you know what, have you spoken to them directly about this, about what you're telling me? Refuse to be the one that carries the message along. You know, now you add person D, you know? And a lot of these things happen in the office and it spreads. You also need to maintain neutrality. Don't validate anyone's emotions. Don't pick a side. Always be neutral. The other thing is encourage direct resolution. Tell them, I don't think I'm okay with discussing this issue, especially that the person is not around. Can I bring them in the room so that you tell them? That's a hard thing to do, but it should be done. Another way you can do it is escalate the problem. If you have leaders above you, HR, managers, they can then help you resolve the issue instead of you picking a side. And you should also address the triangulator, right? Address them. Tell them, I don't think that this is okay, and you should be able to tell the person that you have an issue with. Now, I've talked about the toxic sides of it, but can it ever be healthy? And it can. Triangulation can actually be healthy. When you are solution-focused, it will be very healthy because you are not talking about them only to vent and put your frustrations forward or to validate yourself, but you want a solution to be brought forth. When you're also confidential about it, you haven't spread it across the whole office, but you just want a solution. And also when it's a one-time thing and it's behavior-based, you don't have to attack the character or the persona of the person, but just the issue that you probably have with them. In every organization, and I'll end with this, we need to see to it that we build a triangulation-resistant culture. Build a culture of direct communication. Are your people also trained to handle conflict? Can they be trained to handle psychological tension? Are things transparent in the office? Do they have high emotional intelligence? And how can they handle conflicts better? So I want you to remember this as I end. If you can't say it to them, don't say it about them. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Miss Diana Mutinta Simujika. She came to us with a balanced well-researched and well-thought-through message. Although triangulation can have some benefits if it's done with a good spirit and with a solution-focused agenda, it can also have devastating impacts on the parties involved and the organization at large. My key takeaway and the key takeaway that you should remember, as Miss Diana reminded us, is if you can't say it to them, avoid saying it about them. We have another exciting fun fact. If you look around in the room and you spot the proprietor, Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma, she's now wearing a dirty gray suit with trousers, pants, and watch the split sleeves that are accentuating the suit. Although we are called to wear modest colors, she believes that we should not abandon style. And she is the embodiment of style. Ladies and gentlemen, our theme is work-life balance, and what better way to demonstrate a balance than a stylish suit. Thank you, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking to be an enlightened corporate governance actor, leader, and champion? Knowledge is power, and your answer is the Leya Mtonga Ngoma Essential Avatar. The Leya Mtonga Ngoma Essential Avatar offers you a flexible, cost-effective avenue for gaining integrated experience in the practice of corporate governance. The Avatar is an artificial intelligence AI coach which contains professional, personality, and published work of the Leya Mtonga Ngoma brand, fondly known as LMN. It enables clients to enrich their knowledge on corporate governance and organizational behavior. Once subscribed, you will have access to other AI coaches hosted by the maxgood.work platform on different areas of the practice. Join the leaders that are thriving with AI. Transform your challenges into great opportunities and become a confident, trendy, and relevant corporate governance actor. Subscribe today for only 600 kwacha per month and pay easily through a Visa card or any local Zambian mobile money networks. Take the lead, subscribe now, and let us partner in sharing knowledge. For more details, visit our website on www.leyamungoma.com. LMN, the brand that breaks ground.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now about to be ushered into an interactive segment of the Let's Share Annual Speak. There's something about lived conversations that root from lived experiences. This is what the mentees from the LMN Structured Mentorship Program are about to bring in this segment. The conversation will be led by Miss Lucia Mwanza Mwale, and she'll be in conversation with, once again, Miss Diana Mutinta Simujika. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome them back to the stage with a round of applause as we listen in on their very insightful conversation.
Diana, I'm so excited to hear you share more about your experience with the mentorship program.
I'm excited as well, Lucia.
I also equally enjoyed the presentation, so I know that there's something that you're about to give us that, we enjoy hearing.
Thank you so much.
So let's begin. What was the thing that made you say, I must be part of this program?
Well, I did work with Mrs. Ngoma.
Really?
Yes, at some point. So when she started the mentorship program, she informed me in the office because, of course, she would share in the office. And so I then decided that I could join it because having worked with her, I believe that I could have learned a lot, and I did, from the wealth of experience that she has. She always says that I love to bring this out, that she's got over 2 decades of experience. And that's just very interesting. So I believe that I could learn a lot from her.
I think when people hear that you're being mentored by your boss, there's a certain feeling that they get. How did you deal with those dynamics? Did you ever feel like this is going to impact my relationship at work?
Well, yes, a lot of people actually have that notion that you can't be mentored by your boss, especially people who think that what if the person that you want mentorship about is the same boss that you're going to get mentorship from. But then I must say that for us, it didn't affect the relationship that we had at work. I think we were able to divide work and also the mentorship very well.
So you've shared how the relationship began and how it evolved. But I want you to walk us through your experience. So you're in the mentorship program. What was it like? What were those moments that just spoke to you and said, yeah, I made the right decision?
I think there were so many moments, from the seemingly small moments, like Mrs. Ngoma is so particular, right? So the seemingly small moments, like she will bring you a diary with an Element brand, a shirt, a pen, and a lot of those things, to the bigger moments, like we had workshops on corporate governance, we had a workshop on etiquette, on pitching, we had a networking cocktail, which was very interesting, by the way. And then we also had one-on-one sessions with her. I think those were the most interesting for me.
Really, why were the one-on-one sessions interesting for you?
I think that they had a roller coaster of emotion. Maybe that's why I say they were interesting. Because, first of all, you're kind of nervous. You're trying to
I can
think.
relate to the nervousness.
You're trying to think, what am I going to say? Am I going to say the right things? What will I ask and everything? But then having the one-on-one sessions actually got me to learn about her better and learn about myself better as well. And I could ask any question, no matter how weird.
She never judged. I can attest to the fact that she never judged. But I
Yeah.
also share the sentiment of feeling nervous.
Mm-hmm.
When you're seated with someone one-on-one, you're like, ish, what if I say the wrong thing? What
Yeah.
if she judges me?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can agree that there was no judgment in that sphere. We learned so much.
Yeah, never at all. Actually, some of the conversations that we had were not even work-based. I remember one of the conversations, we went for a drive, by the way, because I had told her that I love long drives. So she will always incorporate something that you like in the one-on-one sessions. So we went for a drive, and we were talking about teenagers and how they are so under pressure to impress in this generation. And they are going all the way to do even the most unnecessary things just to keep up an image. So I think I really enjoyed the one-on-one sessions.
That's true. They were very personal, and you could tell that she put in a lot of effort to make it particular to the person.
Yeah.
So she knew that you like drives, and then she took you on a drive. I'm just putting it out here. I like flights, so she can,
Take you on a
take
flight.
me on a flight.
Yeah.
Preferably South Africa, but let's
Oh,
not
wow.
push it. But yeah, so you've shared your experiences and you've shared about how you'd go on drives. I want you to share your learning experience as well. What was learning like? Because we were a group of people, but we were also with her. Can
Yeah.
you walk us through what learning in the mentorship program looked like to you?
I think the learning was both structured and even informal. I think that even in structured learning, one should be able to observe beyond the notes, to observe beyond what you've been given or beyond the structure. So for me, I did learn a lot from all the structured programs that she put across, but even just from observing, I could observe sometimes when she's putting an event together, you could see how meticulous she would be, how detail-oriented she would be, and how excellent she would want everything to be. So she may not have told you, be excellent, but you can tell from what she's doing, and you can learn to be even a better professional in that regard.
That's very true.
Yeah.
She just gives excellence.
Yeah.
And every single time you're standing with her, you're like, okay, maybe I can't sit like this. Maybe I can't talk like this, because the excellence just diffuses onto you. But I also want you to share, in the mentorship program, we were a group of people. How did learning from different professionals impact you throughout this program?
I think it was actually very interesting. Sometimes we think that we can only learn from people in our field, but you get to see that certain skills cut across every field. So you learn from other people, different skills, communication, public speaking, networking, pitching, and everything like that. So for me, it was very interesting to even learn from people who were not necessarily lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So as we conclude our conversation, my main question is, what have you noticed about yourself after the mentorship program? What impact has this had on you, not only professionally, but also personally, on a personal level?
I think I have learned to be more assertive. I think Mrs. Ngoma is a very firm person, very confident as well. So I think I've learned to be more assertive, more confident in my decisions. And I think that was one of the first conversations we ever had, about confidence. But another thing I have learned is to give time some time. Mrs. Ngoma always talks about her journey and how that not everything will happen now. Wait it out, but keep on working. Don't put yourself on the pace of other people, because you have your own pace. So walk your own journey. And yeah, I think that's what I've seen as a difference. after the mentorship?
See, I think people who haven't been part of the mentorship program are feeling a bit jealous. If I were them,
They
I'd feel
should
very
be.
jealous. But to our viewers listening, if you would like to find out more about the Element Structured Mentorship Program, the details will be on the screen. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the mentees from the Element Structured Mentorship Program. There's something very awakening about the conversation that was being had. I'm sure you felt it just as much as I did. It was honest. It was a combination of fun. It was a combination of serious. And in her reflections, Miss Diana mentioned how she learned beyond the notes. This is just a reflection that the Element Structured Mentorship Program will not only teach you in writing or in words, but also in deeds. And that is such a remarkable mentorship trait. As Miss Leya Mtonga Ngoma mentioned, the Element Structured Program will be open for applications, and the details will be shared if you also want to be mentored by someone who will see you as a professional, but also as a person who loves drives, loves flights, and all the other things that you may love. Please consider joining the Element Structured Mentorship Program, and you will be part of the team that is breaking ground and being meticulous in everything that they do. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in our program, I am excited to welcome back to the stage a lady we have heard speak not so long ago, but what we did not know is what she defines her personal brand as. So in 3 words, she is internalized, resolute, and determined. She's coming to take the stage to talk to us about something that is very important: how to take charge of our career trajectory. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause as we will come back to the stage, Miss Leya Mtonga Ngoma.
Allow me to begin by first addressing what I think is the elephant in this room. As you are seeing me walk up, you are probably thinking, what can this little girl teach me about taking charge of my career growth trajectory? I can tell you that no one is going to do it for you. You cannot be a passive participant in your career growth. So what exactly is a career growth trajectory? And why is it important that we discuss this today? Your career growth trajectory is essentially the direction and the growth of your career over time. So it's the skills you develop and the reputation that you build. But more than that, it's about taking responsibility for this entire process and not letting another person define your growth. You see, every career has defining moments. Those moments when the glitz and glamour of the corporate world fades, and you begin to ask yourself questions like, am I learning enough? Am I doing enough? Do I know enough? All these questions ultimately lead you to one main question, which is, am I fulfilled where I am? Those moments can be quite daunting because you see yourself as what you are. You think about all the things that you should have done that you never did, the things that you should have known that for some reason you didn't know. And in those moments, something that I want to leave you with as comfort is that is the beginning of such a beautiful journey. In a moment of vulnerability, allow me to share one of my moments. You see, there was this one day when I realized I don't quite like being broke. It was the middle of the month. I remained with a 50 kwacha in my account and I was craving KFC. It was just a craving. And so I thought back to myself and I said, where did all this money go? Well, I spent it badly. I didn't invest any of it. There was nothing I could pinpoint as a good financial decision or a good career decision. And right now it may sound a bit funny, even though you haven't laughed, but that's okay. But in the moment, I felt so guilty. And that started the journey of me realizing I have to take charge of my finances. I have to take charge of my career. Each and every session that I get, or each and every salary I get, should speak to what I want to become. And that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you today. No one will take charge of your career for you. I wish they could. But see, no one saw my bank balance. No one could see that I had a 50 kwacha. Very few people will come to you and say, well, Diana, you don't look happy today. Because they don't know what would make you happy. There's just something that you know about yourself that speaks to whether or not you're happy in your career. And unfortunately, or fortunately, only you can change that. You're probably thinking, Lucia, you're so optimistic. You've said so many things. How do I get there? The way that you get there, ladies and gentlemen, is through the power of intentionality. You have to be intentional, not only about where you're going, but how you get there. There are so many corporate actors who they spend their blood, sweat, and tears at work. Every single day, 7 hours they're in the office. Some of us were still sleeping, but them, they're working. But when you look at where they're going to places that will never leave them fulfilled. So they're ever sad, ever angry, ever bitter. But the reality is they are not intentional about where they wanted to go. In addition to being intentional about where you want to go and having clarity about your career, you have to be intentional about the steps that you take over time. Each and every day is a defining moment for your career. Are you intentional about the way that you spend your days at work? Do you just go, clock in, clock out, and say, anyway, I've worked. At the end of the month, they have to pay me. You could do that. You will get the payment, but there's nothing that you're doing to take charge of your career growth. In addition to intentionality, be courageous enough to step forward. There's just something about courage. There are so many people who say, me, they just bypass me. All the promotions they come, they just bypass me. Even start asking yourself, is there something on my face that says, don't promote this person? No, you're not courageous. When it's time to raise your hand, you don't raise your hand because you're afraid of, what do they say? What if I say something dumb? And then now they think, oh, Lucia is just dumb. This child, why did we even hire her? Say the damn thing. Because the damn thing proves that, one, you're courageous enough to speak up, but also that you can act as an agent for the organization. Organizations don't have personality. They're not people. They need somebody to act for them. So if you can't act for yourself, how do you expect somebody to trust you to be an agent for an organization? But also have discipline, right? All these things, they sound amazing. But if you have no discipline, I'm telling you, you'll forever be going through that moment of, am I happy? Am I content? Am I learning enough? Because every single time that you make progress, it'll be cold, and you have to wake up at 05 and you think, for me, 05 doesn't work, so let me just sleep. Discipline is a very important attribute. But also learn. Have continuous learning. You see, the world is constantly evolving. And at the end of the day, if you find yourself in a place where you're not learning, you're sticking to the things of old, you will be behind. And somebody who even came behind you will surpass you. Think of it as a bus. You know, when you get on a bus, you're at the mercy of the driver. So if the driver decides that he's going to use the longest route, my dear, sit down. Even you are using that longest route. If he decides that he's going to stop at every single stop to pick a person, same thing happens to you. You have to be the driver of your career. But I think what would hurt even more than being a passenger is when you're driving the bus. But because you don't understand the new rules of the road, you're slow. You don't understand that they said you can drive at 60 kilometers per hour. You're still driving at 40 because that's what we used to do 10 years ago. That's what I was taught when I started work. Now the people are driving at 60, you're driving at 40, you'll be behind. And you become bitter and you say, why am I not moving? Why am I not evolving? Because you're not learning. All these things ultimately need us to balance our purpose and ambition. At the beginning, I began with a few questions. I said, you ask yourself questions like, am I happy? Am I fulfilled? Am I learning enough? You see, you continuously find yourself in that loop if you don't know what your purpose is. Because you continue working and working and working, but you're working and working to get to points that don't fulfill you, points that don't speak to who you were made to be as a person. So as you're doing your introspection, ask yourself, what are the things that bring me joy? What are those moments of self-actualization that make me want to wake up every morning? Those are things that inform your career trajectory journey. As I was preparing this presentation, a few reflections were, being young is hard. If you're old, maybe you don't understand this, but me, being young, I've realized that it's hard. And I imagine I'm the youngest person in this room, so I can say something about that. Because everybody seems to have gone further than you. So you stand and you're like, I'm finally in my 4th year of university. Everybody is called to the bar. Then you're like, it's okay. But you have to understand that where you start from doesn't determine where you're going to end. It's a journey. A journey meaning, I'm here today. That's not where I'm going to be in 10 years because I'm taking charge of my career trajectory. There's something about understanding growth as a journey that makes you kinder to yourself. It makes you understand that just because you're wearing maybe Crocs or pata-patas doesn't mean you can't go far. Because it's not the type of shoe that you're wearing that determines where you're going. It's the direction of your footsteps. You see, you have to have personal responsibility. That's a word that people don't like hearing. You have to be responsible for your own growth. No one can do it for you. Success isn't determined by chance. We sit and say, oh, I'm in a good organization. I just have to wait for Mrs. Ngoma to be phased out. Then I'll become the chief of legal. But guess what? I'm craving that position. Diana also wants that position. Another person wants that position. What will make me get that position is the intentionality that I put in my career. What skills am I learning? Am I getting mentorship from her? Am I just admiring it from afar and saying, one day that will be mine? One day will come, it will not be yours, and you'll continue saying, me, they just pass me by. They think I'm not leadership material. No, you were not intentional about taking charge of your career trajectory. In summary, take ownership of your career journey. No one is going to do it for you. Commit to continuous learning. A person who doesn't learn risks staying behind. Practice discipline and courage. I can't emphasize this enough. Be disciplined. Even when it's called at 5 a.m. and they tell you, wake up and go and think about career growth trajectory, wake up and go and speak about it because you know where you want to go. But also be courageous. Don't sit and say, anyway, I'll leave it to chance. Maybe somebody will realize that I'm talented. No one will realize that you can speak if you don't get up on stage and speak. No one will realize that you can write if you don't offer to write. You're being left out, or you're being sidelined, or you're being overlooked because there's nothing about you that you're showing can be looked at. That's why we're missing you. Realize that growth is intentional. It's not accidental, but it also takes time. So be kind to yourself. Don't look at the people above you and say, I'm not them, so I shouldn't try. They came before you. They've had time to figure it out. This is your time to be intentional and align all these things with ambition. In conclusion, before you can take charge of your career growth, understand your environment. I've spoken so much about understanding yourself and understanding your goals and understanding what you need to be. Do you understand where you have found yourself? Do you understand the career that you're in, the environment that you work in? Because if you're dreaming in the sky, it's cute to have dreams that reach the sky, but the ground needs somebody walking. So if you want to fly when we need a car, you'll be flying, but you're not going to get where you want to go because you're flying. Don't assume that your organization will determine where you're going to go. May I work for a bank? At the bank, we succeed. I'm telling you, they will phase you out, and the bank will bring somebody else who has the desire and the intentionality to succeed. Let everything that you do, every single day, be a deliberate effort to shape your career. Dear friends, don't be the passenger in your career growth trajectory. Be the driver. Thank you so much.
Who else is feeling like flying? There's something in the environment that just feels recharged, rejuvenating, and it just makes me feel like going back to my drawing board and planning out how I'll intentionally take charge of my career trajectory. You know, when Lucia defined her personal brand as internalized, resolute, and determined, it's moments like the presentation she just gave that shows you exactly how she embodies those words. She commanded the room, she grabbed our attention, and she left us with thoughts that really call us to action. So another round of applause for Miss Lucia Mwanza Mwale, as she reminded us that we have to be intentional, courageous, and disciplined even as we drive our career growth. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in our program, I am excited to introduce someone who we all know so well. We have heard of the futuristic and transformative innovations that the Element brand and the Element Advisory has in store. We have seen the AI, we have seen the structured mentorship program, and we have heard firsthand from the mentees who have gone through the mentorship program. At this point, I'm about to introduce a woman who wears many hats. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's an author, She is a seasoned and respectable legal professional. She is an expert and authority in corporate governance. Ladies and gentlemen, she is the proprietor, visionary, and the life behind the Element brand and all its different faculties. Today, she'll be talking to us about two very important topics. Firstly, what the diamond standard of the Element brand means. And secondly, interstructural and interpersonal relationships and the hard truths that come with them. Ladies and gentlemen, let us rise in applause as we welcome to the stage Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome to Luri's Gardens, my backyard. They call it Luri's Gardens, but we just call it the backyard because we live here. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you very much to the team behind the brand. There's been a lot of Mrs. Ngoma this, Mrs. Ngoma that. I would never do what I do alone. So I will do something that I haven't done in the past two speaks to just appreciate the power behind the Element brand. So we have Umubanga Media, who have been my media for I don't know how many years. This is their, third year? And I can safely say that Umubanga Media is responsible for this. It was so hard to learn how to do this, but Umubanga has been very kind. Even when I'm not looking nice, he says, awesome, you know? So Umubanga Media has been working with the Element brand for the past 3 years. I'd also like to appreciate Carol Creations. This is their second year working with the brand, and they're responsible for all this nice decor. Thank you very much, Carol Creations. And in absentia, I wish to thank Dermadale Aesthetics. They've been doing my skin, body, and makeup for I don't know how many years, but they're responsible for when I look nice. Just know that there's someone behind it. So I thought I should just thank those that power the annual speak. Also to thank my gracious DOP, who's doing great so far, telling everyone what I'm wearing and what inspires what I'm wearing. I don't know if she'll tell you about what I'm wearing now. We'll leave it for later, but I think that it's very special what I'm wearing now, and you'll learn about it later when she decides to tell you about it. And so I'll just go straight into the theme. What is the diamond standard for the Element brand? What does it mean? I'm sure you've seen a lot of writing about the diamond standard, and it's written D-I-A-M-O-N-D. What does it mean? This is the mantra that the Element brand lives by. So on the screen is our mission as a brand to be industry and market leaders in the provision of innovative, I'm sure you saw the AI and everything. Integrated, we integrate work and life, but we also integrate different governance tools to come up with something that works for our clients, and we provide solutions. So that's our vision. Our mission is basically to provide a customer-centric and flexible, sustainable learning and sharing platforms and products. So this is what goes into the Diamond Standard. The brand offers, do we know what we offer? I'm a consultant, so I make money out of this thing sometimes. So we serve organizations, we simplify processes and systems, and we help clients to solve corporate governance problems. And we do innovate. We don't just sit by and watch the industry unfold. We work with it, we follow it, and we provide solutions that are easily accessible, such as online learning center and the essential avatar. So what is the Diamond Standard? The D stands for dedication to our mission. Remember, I had spoken about our mission a few minutes ago. We are dedicated, we are connected to our mission. We complement our mission statement with action. We're action-oriented. We wish that you were the fly on the wall for the past couple of weeks, especially last night. We were really trying to get things done, and that's where our focus was. And that's what the brand is about. Whatever solution that we offer, we follow it up with action. The I stands for innovative in our approaches. Like I said, we are always following the industry, and we'll approach whatever solution that we have with innovation. I am the creative in the brand, so I think up all those things that you see. I also think up what I think people would like to learn about, but I have a team that helps me to be current, like Lucia and the ICT people behind the brand. So they help us to be innovative. So several times they tell us, no, this is not fresh. It doesn't look like it's for 2026. I'm sure Lucia remembers that. She tells me that a lot, like, I don't like this. I think you should try again. So we try to be innovative. We also try to be articulate in our delivery. I was listening to Diana when she said, Mrs. Ngoma is so particular. I think articulation and clarity is very important. I can have something very good to offer, but if I'm not articulate, if Karen doesn't tell me I'll bring you these nice golds and white seats and I'll have some white flowers on the table, even if she's good, I might not buy into her. And so being articulate is very important, and we live by that. As we deliver, we are articulate, we are clear. And so I can't recall any time that we've given a service and we're not clear about it. We bash ourselves before we go out there so that there's clarity in our messaging and our delivery. The M stands for motivated by the desire for excellence. Again, I heard my colleagues speak about excellence. That's what the brand is about. And yes, it's true. I won't tell you, be excellent. But if you're going to work with this brand, that's what you have to strive for. Perfection, they say, is something that is not achievable. So I always say you strive for perfection so that you're as close to excellence and perfection as a human being should be or can possibly be. The O stands for opportunity. We see opportunities in all situations. And so even just standing around, idling around, we are always thinking about our next move. And those who have worked with me will tell you that I have told them that the trip from here to my workplace, those of you who are coming here for the first time, I'm sure now you realize that I live quite far. But I take that opportunity, number one, to listen to very loud music. Those who've worked with me can actually hear me driving in. At one time, somebody called and said, Mrs. Ngoma, please, can you just reduce the volume in your car? You know, so I listen to loud music, but I also do a lot of thinking. I take that opportunity to think about my brand and obviously to think about my day at work and things like that. So that's what the brand does. It takes advantage of every opportunity. We don't believe in wasting time, and we turn every situation into an opportunity to excel. The N stands for nimble. Do you know what nimble means? If you saw me in the morning, was I walking like this? Very quickly, walking very fast, wanting everything to get done. Okay? So nimble is us delivering, but delivering swiftly, delivering on time. I recall saying, we are running out of time. We're running out of time because I wanted to be ready for this event. And I wanted people to be nimble. I think I recall saying, if you were walking yesterday, you need to run now because there's no time. And so our brand is also about that. With grace and poise, I don't know if I was graceful in the morning, but I think I'm graceful now. We accelerate development and client satisfaction. The last D is we dare to be different. We offer no apologies for setting ourselves apart from competition. So it is our business to be different. It is our business to beat competition by being different. In the industry that we are in, it's very competitive, isn't it? So you're not going to go in with the same things. You're going to go in with some nuance, isn't it? So that people can be attracted to you. So this theme was very short, intended to be short. I don't know if Mubanga thinks that I have been short. During the rehearsal, he says, you talk too much. I talk for a living. And then he's asking me to break something down in 5 minutes. I think I have tried. And we'll go straight into the next and last theme for this year's annual speak. One which is more of learning. The other one was a lot about selling myself, selling the brand. But this one is now about interstructural and interpersonal relationships in organizations. What are those hard truths that we need to know about those relationships? So what are the internal structures of an organization? So you have your board of directors, isn't it? Those of you who work in organizations. That is a structure. Before we start talking about who are your board members, you have a structure called the board of directors. Then you have your executive management, which is a body that is led by the chief executive officer and is called sometimes a C-suite or EXCO. Then you have your senior management and middle management and support or other staff. This is just a basic model. It can change from organization to organization, but generally that would be the structure of an organization. Interpersonal relationships. So we have spoken about the structures. The structures are operated by people, isn't it, who perform certain roles. So this slide is about those people and the roles that they perform. So you have decision makers, and the decision makers I'm talking about here would be the people that are sitting on your board of directors. That is not to say ExCo doesn't make decisions and senior managers don't make decisions. But at top level, you have those that make the key decisions for the organization. Then there are managers, which would include executive management, those that do the day-to-day running of the organization. Then below them, there's a level of supervisors. Okay, so they're lower than executive management. They also make decisions, but they are sitting at supervisory level. And if you want to know the difference between a manager and a supervisor, you can follow me on LinkedIn. The other strata would be the peers, those who you are at the same level with. So you can have peers at board level, you can have peers at manager level, peers at supervisory level, and then those that are the supervised, those that report into a certain office. Structures are about positioning in an establishment, okay? So when they say do a diagram of what your organization looks like, they're probably wanting to know what kind of structures that you have in an organization. And they define strategic roles and accountabilities. So we're now marrying what we had spoken about in terms of the structures and then the roles that are being played. So the board of directors and the decisions, the ExCo and senior managers with the management and supervisors and so on. So the key relationship attributes between structures in an organization. And I've listed a few words here: authority, direction, submission, implementation, and results. So I have chosen these words and I would like to just speak into them. Authority. What is authority in an organization? When you hear the word authority, you probably think the board, isn't it? The board, ExCo. So authority is the formal legal power to make decisions, okay, and take actions that bind the organization. So the board is responsible for making decisions that bind the organization. It answers who is allowed to do what in an organization and who can hold them accountable. So for instance, who would hold the board of directors accountable? Where do they draw their authority? They draw their authority from the shareholders. Thank you very much. Someone who was whispering, but very, very loudly, yes. And where does ExCo get its authority? It gets its authority from the board, and so on and so forth. So authority is a very key aspect of the relationship between the structures in an organization. Direction. I'm sure those of you who have seen minutes of board meeting, there's a lot. The board directed, isn't it? Okay, so setting and guiding the overall purpose, strategy, and values of the organization and making sure management pursues them, right? So management can be directed to do this and that, but that's not all that the board does, because it has to ensure that management pursues those directives. Why? Because it is accountable to the shareholder to deliver on what they were appointed to do. I hope that you can now see how these concepts relate and fall into each other. So the board has authority, and in exercising that authority, it can give direction. The other word I'd like to speak about is submission. When you hear submission, not in a marriage, okay, in an organization, what does it mean? Who usually makes submissions? Management, isn't it? Always submitting to the board because they want an approval, isn't it? So for you to get that decision or that approval, you must make a formal submission to the board, justifying why the board should make that decision that will bind the organization. So submission is the formal act of management presenting information, proposals, or decisions to the board for its review, approval, or direction. It's the main way the board exercises its role without running the day-to-day business of the organization. Remember, the board is accountable to the shareholder. We said that, isn't it? But it doesn't run the day-to-day activities of the organization, but it's expected to answer for the sins of those people in the organization. How does it make sure that it is able to account? It's through things like this. Why do you want to spend X amount of money on this? What's the justification? And when you justify and you satisfy the board, they'll give you the approval. And they will be able to defend it with the shareholders by being accountable. Implementation. Management are implementers of strategy, isn't it? Isn't it? They're very quiet. Say yes or no, you know. Implementation is the process of turning the board's decisions, strategies, policies, and directions into actual actions. You have seen an action log or an action matrix, isn't it? When you are going to the board, you will submit an action matrix. What have you done pursuant to the approval that was given to you 3 months ago? Report into the board. Let the board give you its comments or further direction. Why? Because you are actually agents of the board. Do you know that you're agents of the board? That the actual managers of an organization is the board of directors. But they delegate the day-to-day running of the organization to management. So you do things on their behalf, and therefore it's their business to stick their nose into your business when you come to them to tell them what you've been doing the past 3 months or what you did last month, depending on what kind of a meeting it is. Results, something my brand is very passionate about. Give me the newsletter, Lucia. She has to deliver that result. An organization exists for just that. We don't exist to look pretty, although we like to look pretty. I like nice things and looking pretty and all of that. And I think I look pretty at work. But chances are that my employers are not as interested in how I look than they are with the result. I am there to produce a result for the organization to continue as a going concern, isn't it, Dennis? Yes, actual outcomes the organization achieves and the board's role in holding management accountable. I have spoken about the board being accountable to the shareholder, isn't it? Even management is accountable to the board. So you do wrong things, you have to explain to the board. You fail to achieve results, you have to go to the board. And they'll decide whether they're happy with your explanation or not, or sometimes whether they're happy that you continue to be where you are or not. Interpersonal relationships. These involve human stimuli, responses, and intelligence. And I think this is the harder, they call it the soft side of the workplace or the organization. But do you know how complicated an emotion is? Do you know what the body goes through to exhibit an emotion? A lot of stuff goes on. I'm told even some kind of electric current goes on in the body, okay? No electric currents when you set up your board and everything. Everything is very clockwork. But when it comes to interpersonal relationships, there is that dynamic. I have different emotions from the next person. So Mubanga will say, please, can you bring this? And it's 2 minutes before the event, and he's really nice. Sometimes you can't even hear what he's saying. I am not like that. I'm going to scream. Can you please, can we get something done? It's because we're different. We're wired differently, even if we are looking for the same thing. So in terms of human relationships, you have your professional relationship, you have your boundaries. Those are the things that define what kind of interpersonal relationship you are going to have with the next person, in your team, with the next person outside your team, with the person outside your organization. Okay? So it's important that you get some basics about a human relationship in the workplace. The make or break in a professional relationship is usually an indicator of things to come. I always tell this story. Lucia doesn't like it, but it's a story about how we got engaged with each other in work. So she just called me randomly. This girl called me, and she says, I want to be your marketing person. And well, she became my marketing person. But I think that what struck me is the courage that she had to call me. And she tells me that she had already dealt with certain things. The worst that could happen was for me to say, look, I'm not interested. And she had already figured out how she was going to deal with that. So it was go time, right? So it's important how you start a relationship. After we engaged, there was a lot of trying to get to know each other, and that is very normal. In a professional relationship, parties should be able to employ sober and ethical methods, whether there is a problem or there is no problem. Okay? In a workplace, there's a way of expressing happiness or joy, isn't it? I mean, if I started doing some kind of jig or, because I'm so happy that we won a case, I think I'd be the only one doing that, and everybody else around me would be like, here? So there are ethical methods of doing everything in an organization. There are ethical methods of being happy, but there are also ethical methods of expressing unhappiness. And that's how you build on your relationships. One thing I'd like to also point out is that no one in the organization is employed to give another person a hard time. We learned about triangulation, isn't it? And the dangers of triangulation. But I want you to know that there's no job description in an organization which says you are employed to make Leya's life difficult. Okay? So it's important that even as you relate, you should relate with a view of bringing success to the organization and not bringing each other down. Okay? So there's a lot that goes on in organizations between people. There's an art around acting the fool in an organization and actually not being one. And for me, I came up with this sentence because I'm a very impatient person. And I have had to learn to listen. And sometimes you listen to things that are not making sense. And you have to look like you're the fool and you're just listening. But this is about patience. Be patient with yourself because it won't be long. You're not the fool anyway. This person will finish talking and you will ask intelligent questions. So what I was talking about being the fool and seeing it as listening more than being a clown or whatever. I think you need to train yourself to listen. So the other thing I'd like to speak about under interpersonal relations is the inner peace. You must have peace before you step into the gates of your organization. Peace of mind is a deep-seated human need. It's important for you to be of a certain frame of mind as you engage with other people. If you're always flustered, you will always give people a flustered response. But if you have peace, you will be able to listen, be the fool or whatever it is, okay, and be able to process. And so inner peace or peace of mind, I hear people saying, it doesn't give me peace. So it's somebody else's job to give you peace. Start with yourself. Give yourself peace. Come to the garden. Sit alone and think and give yourself peace. Because if you rely on other people to create that peaceful environment for you, you might find it very difficult and you might be disappointed. Awareness, self-awareness, being aware of yourself helps you to relate with others. Are you aware of yourself? Are you aware that you talk a lot like Mrs. Ngoma? It's important that you know yourself before you present yourself to other people. Again, I'll say this, and again, there are some people that don't believe me, that I'm an introvert. Somebody's laughing. I am an introvert, but I am an aware introvert. I know that I find it easier to be on my own. But I also know that I need to work for a living, and I need to talk to people, and not myself. So I learned to develop that power to speak to other people. I learned to develop those attributes, such as eye contact, that someone thinks, they call it a stare. Can you imagine? Mrs. Ngoma has this stare. She does. She has a stare. But it's, for me, it's eye contact, and it's something I needed to learn because it was outside my comfort zone. And I think I do it well for someone to call it a stare. I call it a look, okay? It's a look, but it's something that you have to develop in interpersonal relations. Knowing yourself, being aware of yourself, being aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. One of my weaknesses is I don't know when to stop talking. That's why I have Umubanga here smiling at me like, time up, you know? I know that it's a weakness, but I am working on it. I think I did very well with the first one, better than during the rehearsal. This one, I'm going to give some of the blame to you and the power. So it's very important for you to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. One of my strengths is that I speak clearly. I'm aware that I speak clearly, and I take full advantage of that. I go on AI and say, I have this kind of accent. Is it good? And I was told that it's good, so I'll continue using it. But I build on my strengths, but I also try to improve on my weaknesses. And that has helped me with interpersonal relations. There are some people who think Mrs. Ngoma is intimidating. There are some people that say that. And when I was younger, I was like, I don't scare anybody. Look at me. I'm so small. I think I was in denial, but because now I'm aware that I could intimidate someone, I work on that attribute. I want to be graceful. I want to have some poise. I don't want someone describing me as, oh, that forceful woman. Thank you very much for not using it. I'd rather you use assertive because I think it's more in character and it tells me that I am not a loose cannon. I used to be when I was much, 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 much younger, when I wasn't really aware of what my strengths are and my weaknesses are. But that has helped me because now I walk into a room and sometimes I expect people to look at me like they've seen a zombie, I don't know, not a zombie, some monster or something, because they've been told, oh, Mrs. Ngoma is the one who is coming, and they have all these things about me. And I'll start with a joke. And it helps for me now to have easier interpersonal relationships with people. So what keeps coming on the screen is thank you, thank you. So this is the end. I hope it's the end. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.
Before today's presentation, whenever I thought of diamonds, I thought of values, I thought of shining bright. I also thought of Rihanna, and I also thought of rings. But today we have been introduced to another aspects of diamonds. The diamond standard, dedication, innovation, articulation, motivation, finding opportunity in all situations, being nimble in execution, and daring to be different. If there's something you should remember, it's the diamond standard of the Element brand, which is applicable in all areas of our life. And admittedly, I'm sure we saw the diamond standard of the outfit that Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma was wearing. So this outfit is a special one. Green is her husband's favorite color. So she loves to always dress for his eye, and he's always complimenting each and every outfit that she wears. So this presentation was a special moment for her. She wore his favorite color. She looked dashing in it. It was a pantsuit. It had a white shoe with some brown accents. I think we can all agree that there was nimble in that execution, and it shined bright like a diamond. So a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again for Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma. Importantly, we also learned the hard truths about interstructural and interpersonal relationships. We learned that corporate actors come with a structure. We learned about the board, shareholders. We learned how the board delegates the day-to-day management to managers. But we also learned how the human aspect that comes into interpersonal relationships needs to be managed very carefully. And this starts with being self-aware. Before you can relate with the next person, you need to know there's ethics in how happy you can be. There's ethics in how sad you can be, and how you can then relate those emotions. Mrs. Leya also taught us about how we should know our strengths and weaknesses and what we can do about them and how we can even use them to our advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, the Let's Share Annual Speak 2026 promised to be many things. One of the promises was that it was going to call you to action. It was going to call you to reflect, and it was going to prompt you to be a better person. And after learning all these skills on how to be better players in interpersonal relationship environments, I believe we'll definitely be better people. For now, we'll have a musical break, and when we're back, there'll be an exciting segment, the first ever LMN Structured Mentorship Graduation Ceremony. Definitely something you don't want to miss.
Do you want to set diamond standards in your career or organization? Achieve excellence with a difference. The LMN Knowledge Center offers practical online courses for your career and business progression needs. Our courses include corporate confidence and etiquette, corporate governance and operational business of organizations, minute writing and minuting management, corporate social responsibility and corporate environmental responsibility, purpose and benefit of team building, perspectives on contract negotiation, company secretary masterclass, and board excellence masterclass. For more details, visit us on www.knowledgecenter.leyamngoma.com. Click on the Knowledge Center for more information about the courses. LMN, breaking ground.
Ladies and gentlemen, now this is an exciting segment we have been waiting for. The graduation ceremony for the first cohort of the LMN Structured Mentorship Program. If there's one thing that we have been made aware of throughout the Let's Share Annual Speak, is that the LMN Structured Mentorship Program, as demonstrated by the mentees who were active participants themselves in this session, is intentional about growth, practical growth, growth that we can all see, hear, and even feel. At this point, we'll join in jubilation as the mentees who attended this cohort come and graduate. They're going out into the world to serve differently from a mentor who poured into them graciously in words, in deeds, and even by observation. But before we call upon the graduates, I will call upon Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma to take the stage as she talks us through the LMN Structured Mentorship Program and as we welcome the mentees. But before she comes, she's now adorned in a blue suit and a dark blue matching shirt. There's something about the color blue that demonstrates both strength and peace. It reminds us of the ocean as much as it reminds us of the sky. It's this strength and it's this peace that has been demonstrated even in the Element structured mentorship program, the mentees are being called to soar to greater heights and to remember that in every area and every space that they attend, they carry impact and they carry the ability to change the world. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause as we welcome back to the stage Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma.
Come to me wild and wild. You come to me, give me everything.
I'm back. Did you miss me? You didn't have time to miss me. Okay, thank you very much, Madam DOP. I'm here to speak about the LMN Structured Mentorship Program. The first of its kind for the LMN brand was held between 1st January 2026 and 31st March 2026. Before I came up with a structured mentorship program, I mentored a number of people, and I mentored them in two different ways. One very informally, and the other through my employers. My employers have a mentorship program, and we were given a few people to mentor, one of whom is here, and we now work together in our other lives, but I did mentor him, and I had a great time mentoring him in the workplace. I think what was unique was that that was the first time I was mentoring somebody who was not a lawyer. So it was quite sometimes difficult, but largely very interesting. And so one day somebody asked me, so how many people are in your mentorship program? I said, what? Mentorship program? And they said, yeah, people do mentorship programs. So I went online to find out what this was all about, and why some people were motivated to do a structured mentorship. And I think I liked the idea, but I wanted to be different as usual. So I took a couple of months trying to figure out what is it that I would do in a mentorship program that was different from what I informally do, different from what program that I have with my employer. And so it was, I think, a good 6 months of telling myself, I think I can't do this, or maybe I should continue and find my way around it. And fortunately, I did find my way around it. And the mantra around my mentorship program is twofold. One is the very general one, which speaks to a mentor helps you to become the best version of themselves or yourself, isn't it? They help you to find your niche and things like that. So generally, that's what mentorship is about. But I also wanted to be more involved in the process and to give my mentees an experience of me, because they say that they are inspired by me. And that was a challenge for me. It's a very big thing for someone to tell you that you inspire them. It's actually quite scary, because then you want to know why. What is it that inspires you about me? And sometimes they'll tell you something you weren't even aware that you do. And you're thinking, okay, so how am I going to teach this person how to be that thing they're inspired to be. And so, long and short, I thought I should give my group of mentees a piece of me. And from what I've heard, they did get a piece of me, because I do like to know what you like, and I would like to be part of what you like, if I can manage, because I'm aging. And so if it took me bungee jumping and all that, I'd probably say, that's nice, and I like that. I like the fact that you like it, but I'll just stay where I am. And also, just the clarity. I've seen a lot of personality in the two presentations. Congratulations, by the way. You did me proud. I think that you came out and you were yourself. And that's one challenge that I have had all my life, to just be myself and to make the best of myself. So I still get people saying, just be yourself. I remember the first annual speak that I had. It was recorded here. And my husband kept telling me, just be yourself. Just be Leya. And I was like, what's that? And so I saw a lot of personality in the presentation. I had to teach myself over a period how to even take one step on the stage, But I saw that, my colleagues were all over the stage, commanding the stage. And I think you have become, or you're becoming, the best versions of yourself. And one thing that mentors should be proud of is to see a better version of themselves on stage. And that's what I saw today. I will take some credit, if you'll give me, but I think all of this is you, the mentee. You have come out to be yourself. And I have mentioned that one of my mentees, who is my workmate, who works with me on my brand, has now learned to withstand the stare. She can actually say, you're staring at me, but this is not good. I am not moving. And for me, that is strength. That's one of the things that I think I can give to someone who believes they are inspired by me. In terms of the program itself, there was getting to know each other as a team, as a group of mentees. There were one-on-one sessions with myself. There were exercises. I made them, do it if you like, and things like that. But I think from my language, they knew that, the exercises were kind of mandatory, very intentional. One thing I remember is when the mentees were coming up with their logos. When Diana was coming up with a logo that says she's spirited and all of that, and when Lucia was coming up with a logo, she's intentional and all that, those were very long discussions. I felt a lot of personality from the mentees, a lot of argument. I remember Diana insisted on some. She kept sending me back the same logo and saying, this is, I said, no, but can you think about this? Can you think about that? Then we settled for something. And that for me was very insightful. I also learned through this program the intergenerational interaction that, you can learn from each other. You can learn from the Gen X or whatever it is. You can learn from the Gen Z. You can learn from toddlers and all of that. And for me, I think when you come out of a mentorship relationship and you have both benefited, I think that's very, fulfilling. A lot of learning also um, amongst the mentees. I don't know how many TikToks I sent them. I sent them a gazillion TikToks. Some of them I sent them to them individually because they did a personality test before they joined. And so I had an idea of what kind of personalities I was working with. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to work with you and to be of assistance as a mentor. And today, as you graduate, I want to say that this is the beginning. Don't go out there and say, no, I've been through structured mentorship. I know what I'm doing. No. This is the first step to you going out there and being what you want. What you have now is courage. What you have now is confidence. Those are ingredients for success. Even as I stand here, I don't call myself successful because there's still other things that I desire in life. There's someone I would also like to be when I grow up. Okay? And it could be somebody younger, older, same age, doesn't matter. And I believe that for as long as you're living, you should keep striving, because that's the only way we can make the world better. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining the cohort, and thank you for sticking it out those 3 months where you get like 200 texts a day from Mrs. Ngoma, but it was all to cement the relationship and to give you a good experience during the exercise. So thank you so much.
With no much further ado, we'll go straight into the graduation ceremony. Dear graduates, when you're called up to stage, you will come, shake hands with your mentor, and please stay on stage as the other graduates also join you. The first one to come up to stage in no particular order is Mr. Daniel Mwanza. A round of applause for Mr. Daniel Mwanza, please, who is graduating in absentia. Secondly, we have also graduating in absentia Miss Vupe Kayombo. A huge round of applause for Miss Vupe Kayombo, please. Congratulations to our graduates who are graduating in absentia. At this point, I'd like to welcome to the stage Miss Lucia Mwanza Mwale. A huge round of applause. Congratulations, Miss Lucia. I would also like to welcome to the stage Mr. Siyakwema Siyamalambo. Huge congratulations, Mr. Siyakwema. Another graduating mentee from the Elements Structured Mentorship Program. I'd also like to welcome to the stage Miss Diana Mutinta Simujika. Congratulations, Miss Diana. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome to the stage Miss Sefi Lizevete, in absentia as well. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure we can all agree that in a certain shape, way, or form, we have been touched and influenced by Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma. This is a call for the rest of us who haven't yet joined the mentorship program to consider doing so. At this point, And with all the present mentees up on stage, I'll just welcome them to please take a formal picture. And for all those in absentia, we'll find a way that the media team can squeeze you into the pictures with AI, perhaps, on a very lighter note. Again, to the mentees and to the mentor who graciously poured herself into various aspects. At this point, the mentees will please leave the stage and they'll be escorted by their mentor in the same way she has escorted them through the last 3 months of TikTok sharings, of 200 messages, of long drives, and undoubtedly of intentional growth. Ladies and gentlemen, today has been many things. But if there's one thing that it has cemented and reminded us, is that the path of growth is an intentional one. Whether it looks like you taking charge of your career trajectory, whether it looks like you being aware of triangulation and when you are the triangulator or the triangulated, whether growth for you looks like identifying how you play a role in interstructural and interpersonal relationship, and whether it looks like being motivated to sign up for the Element Structured Mentorship Program, the 2026 Let's Share Annual Speak has shown us the different ways that we can all strive towards growth. It has also shown us the benefits of balancing work and life, of being stylish but being professional. It has also taught me how you can describe your clothes in a manner that is very captivating. For instance, I am wearing a Hansworth dress with a black collar accentuated by a black belt with gold-studded black heels. I didn't know that before this program, but now I know how to describe my clothes better. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my absolute honor and privilege to serve as the Director of Programs today. On behalf of Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma, on behalf of the entire team behind the Element brand, to all the participants who are with us in studio, a huge thank you to you all, and a round of applause for yourselves for being very active and very engaging audience. Thank you so much. To all the participants who will be watching this bulletin, this recording, thank you also for engaging even as it's airing, for sitting through all the thoughts, and most importantly, for taking heed of the action points and going into the world as better people. To all the presenters who gave of themselves openly and freely. Truly, there was personality in every presentation that came. It looked different, it sounded different, but it all stayed with us. So to Miss Diana Mutinta Simujika, to Miss Lucia Mwale, to Mrs. Leya Mtonga Ngoma, a huge round of applause for pouring into us so graciously. To all the partners of this 2026 Let's Share Annual Speak, to our media partners, Umubanga, thank you for directing with precision. Thank you for telling us where to stand and how to stand, for making sure the mics are controlled, and for doing all the heavy lifting to make sure this looks and sounds as perfect as it's intended to be. A huge round of applause to our media partners. Last but not the least, and I'm sure now we're watching the clock, we've seen some good food being set up, to Mr. Chris, the head chef, and his team, who have prepared us a delicious lunch, which is the next segment of this program. A huge round of applause for feeding us through breakfast and through the final meal. We have enjoyed ourselves and we're looking forward to the next snack. And to myself, the Director of Programs, stroke poet, a lover of words, lover of stories, and lover of engagement. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me a platform. And thank you for allowing me to journey with you through this program. A round of applause for me, please. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I am honored and privileged to close the curtains of the 2026 Let's Share Annual Speak. Until next year, stay blessed and thank you.